Welcome, bet riders around the world. My name is Gary Solomon. This is International Recumbent Biking Day, and you're watching the Laid Back Bike Report. It is awesome to have you all with us today. It is International Recumbent Biking Day. We're going to tell you more about that and what it's all about in our viewer submission segment at the end of the show. But let me tell you what else is coming up on today's show. First of all, our featured guest is Jack Butler. He is the champion of the 2024 Sun Trip. So many of you may know about the Sun Trip, which went from France to the Sahara Desert and back. Very exciting stuff happened last month. You'll learn all about that in our first segment. We also have Mark Crews with us. Mark is the CEO of WizWheelz, the folks who put on Recumbent CycleCon every fall. And there have been a number of changes to CycleCon that they've made, and you guys will be interested to find out about that. So Mark Crews will be with us in our second segment. We also have our pal Larry Seidman, who is doing a sports report with us today. He attended the Waterford, Michigan HPRA racing last month, or race, I guess I should say. He participated, and he'll tell you a little bit about his experience and some of the results there. I think you'll enjoy that as well. So let's meet our crew before we get started here too far. There is Larry Seidman out in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Larry, thanks for being with us today and helping out.
Hello, Gary.
And of course, in Raymond, Mississippi, it is Trey Burgoyne handling the media and who knows what else today. Trey, glad you're here.
Glad to be here. Good to see everybody.
All right. And in Alfred Station, New York, that's the home of the Bicycle Man. It's Peter Stull. Peter, hi, buddy.
Hey, I'm here doing nothing in particular today, but those guys work.
Right. Okay. Well, nothing in particular is still something, I guess. So we're glad to have you with us as well. Now, guys, if you want to participate in the live show today, the best way to do that is to jump on the live chat. Facebook or YouTube, you can type in a message. You can ask questions. You can make comments. You can chat amongst yourself. That's always fun, and participate in the community. And please let us know where you are watching from. We love to see that as well. Now, if you want to support the Laid Back Bike Report, there's a few ways to do it. You can like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and you can click the little white eye that's going to pop up over there. It'll take you to the Laid Back Bike Report website, where you can find out lots more about what we have published in the past, what we're going to be doing in the future. You can buy a hat. You can become a Patreon supporter for as little as $1 a month, like these guys right here. We always appreciate our Patreon supporters. So, all right, we have amazing corporate sponsors that support this show. Let me tell you about them right now. First of all, there is TerraCycle, makers of exquisite recumbent parts and accessories for your bent. Don't just trike, adventure trike. TerraCycle's racks and bags are like having a personal Sherpa, but without the questionable ethics. And Trailside Trikes, a fine recumbent trike shop on the Withlacoochee Trail in Florida. And TerraTrike Green Speed. Your vision, whatever it is, TerraTrike has a trike to take you there. And Green Speed cutting-edge designs create performance through Aussie ingenuity. And Laid Back Cycles, the top USA dealer for TerraTrike and the premier source for Catrike, Ice, and Green Speed. We give you the freedom to ride. And Bicycle Man, where you can find new and used recumbent trikes and bikes. We're located in Alfred Station, New York, and have over 100 bents in stock and ready to try. So why wait? Come, ride, then decide. And AZUB. They are a 3-time winner of the Trike of the Year award and have brought several unique technological solutions to the world of recumbent bikes. For example, the titanium front suspension on the Ti-Fly trikes. Combined with tuned rear suspension, it provides its owners with absolute comfort throughout the ride. And Recumbent PDX. With a 150 trike inventory, Recumbent PDX is the West Coast's only cat trike megastore. We have over 20 trikes on our showroom floor just waiting for you to test ride through our beautiful Portland neighborhood. Call or email to schedule your test ride today. And Connecticut Yankee Peddler. We feature multiple brands of trikes, including electric assist models. Test rides and Southern Iowa hospitality are always available at our megastore in Chariton. Okay, guys, Hansa can't be with us today, but we will look forward to having him back with us next month. So let's just go ahead and jump into our first featured segment with Jack Butler. Again, he is the Sun Trip 2024 champion. He'll tell you all about that, his amazing YouTube channel, and the race that you guys might have been watching. I know I was last month. Larry, let's have a look.
I'm very excited to have with me here today Jack Butler, the winner of this year's Sun Trip. We're going to talk all about that. But Jack, I'm so excited. I'm glad to have you with us on the Laid Back Bike Report.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me as well. It's kind of cool to be on here.
Well, that's nice of you to stay. Let's assume that many of the folks don't know who you are. I don't know how that's possible and what you've done. and talk a little bit about your history, Jack. So, first of all, where do you live and work, and what is that work?
Yeah, so I'm a British guy, but now since quite recently I live in Germany. So it's quite a nice base camp. I used to live in Switzerland for many years, 4 or 5 years, and that ties into where I still work, which is for a Swiss company. It's like kind of in the tourism sector. We take guests to see the Grand Tours, basically. So the Tour de France I've got coming just next week, if you're going to date ourselves. And the Giro d'Italia is finished now. So in the morning, before the professional riders come, we have a group of guests, and there's closed roads, and all the police stop all the cars and everything. So it's quite exciting. It's a good job.
That is exciting. So you told me earlier that you were going to be at the Tour de France, and I had no idea that actually involved your work. So, well, that is very cool. All right, so let's talk about what you do adventuring. And so I mentioned the Sun Trip, an adventure trip. We'll talk about what that is exactly. But this is not the first adventure trip that you took. So let's start there. Tell me a little bit about your adventure touring in the past. What have you done?
Yeah, well, it kind of cycling for me all actually started in the most unusual way as a cycle courier. I started working for, I don't know if you have it in the States, Deliveroo, but it's kind of the same as all the other food delivery companies. I started on a motorbike, and I was like, this just makes no sense when a bicycle could just do this better. So I switched to a bicycle, and that was God knows how many years ago, and then I was into cycling ever since. Obviously, working for a company like that, in the early days, everyone was a cyclist, so you end up with a big group of cycling friends, and we all had plenty of money from the early days of these delivery companies, so we're all going on tours together and going all these different places. I think the first big tour, at the time it was a huge tour. We went to the Netherlands, because from the UK it's quite easy to get there. You take the ferry, and the Netherlands is like the mecca of easy cycle life. So that's kind of how it all started for me. And then the tours just kind of progressively get bigger and bigger, and they don't feel that scary anymore as you do a tiny step up from one tour to the next.
And had you done a previous Sun Trip before this year?
Yeah, so 2018, I did the Sun Trip, which was from Lyon in France, which is kind of the home of the Sun Trip in a way, to Guangzhou in China. So 2018 was around 14,000 kilometers. It was a big trip. I wasn't racing so much like I was in 2024, this recent Sun Trip, and my bike was definitely not the fastest design or anything like that. I was just going for more of the adventure, and also I wanted to visit Asia without flying. I try and keep low carbon emissions, so it's actually quite a convenient way to get there. Solar powered bike.
Right. And so this tour, that previous tour, that Sun Trip, was on a bike, but it wasn't a recumbent bike. That was an upright bike that you did on that tour. And so you, at some point between then and this year, decided to make that transition. So I know our viewers are going to really be interested in this part of the story. So why did you transition from an upright bike doing these tours to doing a recumbent bike?
Yeah, for me, I think it's a bit of a unique case in that I feel like sometimes a lot of people get pushed towards recumbents because they have injuries or something very specific. But for me, it was much more general. It just seemed like depending on which bike you choose or build, it's a faster bike, and you don't have all these risks of because on the tours, it tends to be like your wrists that really take a pounding, and your neck, and it's all the other things other than your legs, which is the thing that's powering you along. And on the recumbent, you just don't have that same stress on your body, which means you can cycle for longer in the day. Even if you use your legs less, I mean, any minute spent on the bike is a minute further down the road. It just made a lot of sense, and it's faster. So, I mean, why wouldn't you?
Right, yeah, it makes good sense. And if you're going to be going that long, comfort is important because that's going to eventually add more time on the bike. All right, let's get into more specifics here on this. So was the bike that you used for the Sun Trip this year your first recumbent experience, your first recumbent bike?
Yeah, so it was. I spoke with AZUB, and AZUB kindly kind of part sponsored me. They gave me a good discount on a AZUB 6, which is an awesome touring recumbent. It was actually in time ready for the 2018 Sun Trip. Obviously, in 2018, it was planned to go from France to China again, and then it was earlier for COVID that China closed, so it was quite obvious, even sooner than the whole world knew COVID was going to be a thing, that the Sun Trip would be cancelled. And kind of this 2024 Sun Trip was the first big Sun Trip, as I would call it again. So this is what pushed me to rejoin. And I had the recumbent this whole time from 2018 until 2024. So I've had it for trips and using it myself, and I really got to know it, and I got to be able to get used to, the slight change of muscles, and I got used to riding. Because if you're going to ride a solar adapted recumbent, especially a two-wheel one, you better already be used to the recumbent normally before you start strapping solar panels to it.
Right. And just riding a recumbent bike, the muscles that you use are a little bit different than the upright bike as well. So it's great that you had a chance to, and we're going to talk about your training in a bit here, but it's good that you had a chance to get going with that. I'm interested maybe a little bit more specifically on how you began your association with AZUB. So did you know Hans Zagala, and did that get started, or why did you choose AZUB? Give me that story.
Yeah, for sure, the Sun Trip in general, like it's a majority recumbent race most of the years, because it's just frankly a better choice. And AZUB was always kind of involved, and Honza himself, who works at AZUB, took part in the Sun Trip in the years before I even did my first Sun Trip. So there was kind of an obvious connection there for me. And I'd rather, I wanted to be associated with a company that already knew the Sun Trip and already understood what the Sun Trip was about. And then I managed to get in touch with Honza and AZUB, and it's kind of the rest is history.
So how about the preparation? So you told me you had the AZUB 6 for a while, so we knew you were riding it. But let's talk about your training.
Yeah, so the training was pretty intense. I planned out a very intense lead up to before the race, around 6 months. I was already started in the training. Obviously, it builds and builds as you get closer to a race event. So at the beginning, maybe it's 10 hours a week, and then it gets up to 15 hours a week. And before the race, it was 20 hours a week of riding. Not much on the Recumbent in the winter, because I would do indoor riding on the trainer to escape the bad weather in Northern Europe. But you can use the Recumbent bikes inside, obviously, if I go to the gym as well, which is great. My always a concern was like building the wrong muscles, but ultimately your aerobic engine is the thing that's driving you. And for me, I find it quite fast to switch between recumbent and upright muscles. It doesn't take too long for me, as long as you've got that solid base. Yeah, so for 6 months, it was quite an intense journey, a lot of riding, and very structured.
Good. And how about your mental preparation? So since you did the earlier Sun Trip, I'm guessing this what you anticipated for this year would not be a complete surprise in terms of how on a day-to-day, long-term, grueling trip like this, you had to prepare yourself mentally. Was there anything you did to do that?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that I'd already done 2018, I think was a big advantage. Anybody that's already done a Sun Trip really has a big advantage over everyone else because they really get it. It's not like normal bike touring. Like we all know, normal bike touring, it really is another category. It's like bike touring with a permanent state of urgency, which is, you could, for example, in 2018, I finished in 64 days. So, 2 months of a continuous urgency in everything you do. Like you have to get to sleep fast. You have to wake up fast. You have to fix this fast. You have to ride fast. You have to ride as long as possible. I already had an idea of what that was going to be. And I think without that pre-prep, it would have been a little bit of a shock to the system.
All right. How about the AZUB 6, the bike itself? What did you do to get it ready?
Yeah, well, it was an absolute last-minute mad dash to get the bike finished. Despite the 6 months of training preparation, the number of hours it takes to complete the training and also working and everything, finding enough time to also prepare the bike was difficult. And in the end, I was rushing until the bike was finished like 48 hours before the race. So for those that don't really know the Sun Trip so much, maybe it's somewhat confusing. There's a number of rules from the organizers. Like, for example, there used to be a limit on the battery, which was first lifted this year. There's a limit on the minimum solar and the maximum solar, which is the most important metric because, you could have a huge battery, but it's ultimately the size of the solar panel that dictates how much energy you can gather in order to power the bike. All of the power for the bike must come from the solar panels or solar panels that you're carrying. So it's kind of a key consideration for everything. I had a motor in the front wheel, a direct drive motor, which meant I'm able to do regen braking when I'm going downhill, which saves the brakes, but more importantly, recovers energy back into the battery that I've just spent going uphill. I get at least some of it back. Obviously, a bicycle is not quite as massive as a car, so you don't get the same amount of energy, but any energy back in a race that is basically people against each other scraping any energy they can from anywhere is absolutely vital. The solar panel on this bike was overhead, which is a big thing because shading is a problem. If you shade even a small corner of the panel, you cut down the production of the whole thing, maybe 80% or something like that. For example, in 2018, the panel was on a trailer behind me, and in the morning, because we're heading east, if you have a shadow coming from your head and it lands on the panel, you're cutting a lot of your production. And also tilting, which was a new for me this year. The panel tilts because this Sun Trip was France to the south of Morocco, the Sahara Desert and back. So it's actually the first north to south Sun Trip. So when you've got a sun that travels from east to west, suddenly the tilting is even more important than ever. Because there's a certain number of riding hours you're allowed during the day. You've got a 14-hour window in the day you're allowed to be moving. So when you start at 6 a.m., the sun is very low. So you need to get that panel tilted over just to squeeze every amount of power you can.
Yeah, can you describe that? This is probably a good point to do that. You have a very unusual mechanism for tilting that solar panel as you rode. Could you describe that for us? Maybe we can show that as you talk.
Yeah, so some people who ride trikes might actually already know this. You can buy a normal brake handle, but it has 2 cable exits, so you can operate 2 brakes with one brake handle. Using those 2 cables, I was pulling a cable all the way to the front and to the back of the bike, which would release these 2 cogs. Around the cogs, there was a chain, and then this is what would attach to the solar panel. And once it was released, I could use my other hand, pull the thing with this hand, and then just angle the panel where I want, let go of the brake, and then it would lock it in place. Some of the other guys had like an electronic system, which is very cool, but a big sort of philosophy, I suppose, or a design goal of my bike was to be very, very light. That was kind of my advantage.
And how did that tilting? How did you decide when it was time to tilt? Were you watching the amount of voltage coming off that panel as you rode and saw it dropping, and then you knew it was time to tilt it? Was it a couple times an hour? How did that work?
Yeah, I mean, I can see live on the cycle analyst I have with the special firmware for a connected solar panel. You can see live the power that's coming in watts. For sure, you can hold the panel and just angle it till you have the highest number. But the easiest way, especially in the morning, is you can look at the shadow of the panel, and you need that shadow to be as square as possible. Because if it's not square and you've got like a longer rectangle, it means that the panel is not perpendicular to the sun. So that's usually the fastest and easiest way, because you could fiddle around quite a lot to get 1 watt more or 2 watts more. But because I'm not on a trike, I'm on a bike, there's left and right movement anyway in the bike. So you can get it pretty close. And throughout the day, you're slowly clicking it up until, for the majority of the day, it's close to flat, because it's we're not in the depths of winter. So most of the time, the sun's fairly high in the sky.
Good. All right. So attached to the solar panel was the motor that you had. And this was a hub motor, and you talked a little bit about the regen that you found very valuable during the trip. Can you talk a little bit about the motor that you put in?
Yeah, it was a motor by a company called Crystalite. I think it's a Dutch company. I'm not too sure. It was a G40 is the model. And it's one of the smallest and lightest direct drive motors I could find, because really my kind of philosophy was, the first thing is I wanted the bike to be rideable without any power. You don't need power to ride the bike in almost any condition. So if, for example, I had a full day of like a thunderstorm or rain, I actually don't need the motor whatsoever. It's people forget when they see, there's always the people that are like, oh, electric is cheating at something. But ultimately it was just a bicycle. And when I had sun, my average speed was higher, is the best way to think about it. So for that, to lean into that, I wanted the smallest direct drive motor I could get, because the smaller the motor, the smaller the magnets, the less resistance you have when the motor is turned off, which means the bike's just like perfectly rideable, just like normal, which is ideal for me.
All right. You also mentioned some of the electronics that you thought were very helpful, the software and such. Could you describe how those were an advantage to you? Did you like the system that was controlling all of this?
Yeah, I had the motor controller was from Grintech. I had their base runner controller. It's like the smaller. Normally the phase runner is the one everyone has, because there's like a split of people on e-bikes, and I'm in the smaller camp where I want as little power as possible. But normally people on e-bikes want as much power as possible. So the base runner is a really tiny controller, but really powerful software. And I had there's a custom software you can put on a cycle analyst, which is a little display that shows all your different details about the e-bike side of things. And basically you can see power out to the motor and power in from the solar at the same time. So if you want to try and balance them, you can. If you're trying to save up battery for later, you can. It's so convenient, because when you're absolutely exhausted on the race like this, you really just need any convenience you can get. You've just got to take it, because it's really valuable. It makes life much easier. My design philosophy was to keep it very light. So no trailer. I had road wheels on, 28 millimeter road wheels, just because I would have had wider wheels, but in the wheel sizes I had, that's the widest I could find. So that saved, the maths kind of balanced out that it saved quite a lot of rolling resistance, which was nice. But in the end, I had 2 spare tires, and I ended up trashing these racing tires just because the weight was so high and it's not really the intended use case. I had the lightest bike in the race. It was without luggage. It was 49 kilograms, which meant I was the lightest of everybody, which I think in the end helped contribute to doing so well.
Good. And those tires, what did you end up replacing? You said you tore them up. So did you replace those?
On the back wheel, I have a tire that I saved from 2018. It was a Schwalbe All Motion. Unfortunately, I think I might have the last one in the world. Schwalbe tried something really cool. They decided, okay, let's make a touring bike tire with the fast rubber compound of our racing tires and with the fast sidewalls of our racing tires. And they basically built a really wide touring tire that's tubeless compatible with really high puncture protection, and it's really fast. It's like, it's a big, like 55 millimeter, what's that, a 2-inch tire, but you almost lose nothing to a skinny road tire. Unfortunately, they don't exist anymore, unless you want to come and take mine. But yeah, I'm very happy with that back tire. The front one is, because on my AZUB is a 20-inch wheel at the front, so 20-inch is a difficult size to find fast tires. So it was more of a robust kind of cargo bike kind of tire. I would definitely take road tires again. 28 millimeter is just not the right choice, but it's just I was limited by my wheel sizes, which is interesting because kind of, the touring bike standard is that a 26-inch wheel is the gold. But really, I've been a lot of places with the bike now in Kazakhstan, and I've also traveled around West Africa and Senegal and Guinea-Bissau, and 700C is becoming the new standard. There's not that many places you go where you're going to lose 26 now. And 26, the choice of tires is not good anymore. Yeah. You'll always find something for 26, but 700C is coming.
So now I think it's time to take a look at the race. And we would love to hear your stories about this. So let's start out, if you could. We're going to assume people really don't know about the Sun Trip. You talked a little bit about the past one. But could you describe this year's route? Where did you start? Where did you end? Talk about the route for us.
So this 2024 Sun Trip was, it was kind of, its subtitle was Destination Sahara. So starting in Lyon in the south of France, there was not really a set route. I think there was 7 or 8 checkpoints that you had to hit on the route. So it's basically kind of like a rally featuring checkpoints. The first one was on top of the Pyrenees, that everybody had to go over the same Saint Martin Pass close to the Basque Country. And then into Portugal, down to the south of Spain, you take a designated ferry across into Morocco. Then in Morocco, there's the most checkpoints. There's like 5 or 6 checkpoints in Morocco, all the way down the coast of Morocco to the south. And then that's when you head over the Atlas Mountains and into the Sahara Desert, and then back up north again, same ferry back to Spain, one more checkpoint in Spain, and then over the Pyrenees and into back to Lyon again. So it's a big loop. I think it was about 7,500 kilometers this time round. So it's a real proper sun trip again. One of the big adventure sun trips.
Great. All right. So let's take the audience to the start, that first day. Tell me about how that felt. Were you excited? Were you worried? Tell us about the first day, the start of the race.
Yeah, well, everybody kind of arrived 2 days before the official start because we have to do the technical inspections and go through the briefings and things like this. So it was good. It was good to get to meet everyone, especially, there's former champions there. The guy this year in the velomobile, Jean-Marc. He's the former champion from the year before. Raf van Hoel was there, who's won 2 sun trips. So these are like people that I really look up to. So it was cool to like kind of mingle with everyone. But I'd come to this sun trip with the intention of trying to win. and I tried to keep it as discreet as I possibly could. So there was a lot of like, I don't know, I was feeling nervous, seeing other people's bikes. Because Jean-Marc's bike, for example, is incredible. It's an amazing solar racing machine. And yeah, and at the start,
that's the WOW velomobile, yes?
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, it's an incredible machine, and he's almost exactly on the limit of the maximum amount of solar you're allowed, the solar area, and he has very high quality solar panels. So it's about as good, it's about as perfect as you can make a solar bike. The only disadvantage he had against me is his bike without luggage is like 85 kilograms or plus, even more. So he had a lot of weight, and he had one more wheel on the ground. That was his disadvantage. But yeah, at the start, I kind of had this idea of if I can be first over the Pyrenees, I stand a chance. If not, then if I can't beat the velomobile over the mountains, there's no way. I just can't do anything. But if I'm first over the Pyrenees, then I'm going to race for the finish. And if not, then I'm going to slow down and maybe take a breather and enjoy it a bit more. That was my thinking at the beginning.
I'm interested in knowing how many contestants were there in this race altogether.
This was actually I think the least contestants in any sun trip in history, possibly. I think it was like, how many people was there? Maybe 20 or something, a bit less, maybe 15. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, for sure, there's much less people than usual. It's like a smaller edition.
Yeah, well, being at the front of the pack for most of the race, I guess you wouldn't have had the opportunity to see as many of them as maybe some of those folks further back. So that's not a bad thing, I guess. Okay, so you've gotten started now, and looking over, you did the race. So let's take a look back here now. So I'm interested in the best days that you had. Describe for us, if you would, what was just the most fun, amazing? When did you feel the best? What was the highlight of the trip or highlights?
Well, talking again from close to the start, it turned out in the end that I was the first over the Pyrenees, which nobody expected. Like, I was really the underdog. Everyone expected the former champion to win again because he has the best bike and he's already won. So when I was first over the Pyrenees, I think everybody was like, whoa, hang on a minute, what's going on here? And that was an amazing moment. I mean, I didn't hold the lead for long because obviously straight down the other side, the velomobile easily takes me. And he actually set the record for the longest sun trip day on that day. I think it was 475 kilometers in a day. And he took back first place, of course, in front of me. But those days heading into Portugal, absolutely beautiful. Like inland Portugal at that time of year is kind of like late spring. It was amazing. Yeah, the just fields and fields of flowers. It was really, really proper bike touring, really nice riding. But there's so much as well, like in the and then finally being in Morocco in the Sahara Desert, and there's just like camels crossing the road. It literally couldn't be you couldn't be further away from those two opposites, the flowers in Portugal to the absolute desolation of the desert in Morocco. Yeah, there was a lot of highs. It was a great trip.
Wonderful. All right. Well, let's draw a contrast then. So, were there some moments that you were worried about the remainder of the trip? Maybe you didn't know whether you could go on, or maybe there were some dangers. Tell us a little bit about the worries or the worst parts of the trip.
Yeah, I mean, I say it was a great trip, but I mean, it's the hardest thing I've ever done by a factor of 10. Now, I was in you have this 14-hour window in the day where you're allowed to ride, and you need to be moving as fast as possible for all of it, every single day with no stop. It's absolutely brutal. Physically, it's absolutely brutal. I was completely shattered, like exhausted after after 2 weeks, and in the third week, it was real exhaustion. It was really hard, to be honest. But there's always a positive spin from. You might be exhausted, but you'll be in a beautiful place. So, for me, I think a challenge with being in Morocco is I really, when I'm bike touring, I really hate being chased by dogs. And in the north of Morocco, it happened so many times. Thank God I have the e-bike for that, because I always kept, even though tactically speaking, it's probably not the most efficient way. I always kept it like 5 to 10% reserve in the battery. I never emptied it completely, just so that when I get chased, I can accelerate away from dogs chasing me. It really, I like one day getting chased like 9 or 10 times by packs of dogs. It really grates on me mentally. I found that so difficult. And the last couple of days, leaving Morocco, I was ready for European soil a little bit, to be honest.
Well, and you have to think that being in the velomobile would provide a bit more protection against wild animals or dogs coming after you than you being so exposed on that bike, huh?
Yeah, for sure. And they can't see his legs. I think a lot of the excitement and the reason they chase is they see the spinning of the legs, and if you can't see that, I think they just don't really bother with you that much. I was so jealous of the velomobile for this. You really are protected from everything. You know, you're protected from the sun, you're protected from the rain, you're protected from environmental hazards. Yeah, I mean, perhaps in the desert when it's like 45 degrees Celsius, he's probably not thinking about that much. But you are really well protected.
And what about, I guess, what a lot of ordinary recumbent riders think about on long trips would be encounters with automobiles and traffic and such. Did you find yourself at any point feeling worried about traffic and cars, collisions and such?
Not really. I think actually the worst in the trip was Portugal for vehicles. Morocco, people tend to be fine. They give you plenty of space. In Spain, I think it might be actually a legal thing where they have to give you 1.5 meters. So in Spain, no problem. Really, really easy. But yeah, maybe in the north of Morocco where it's busier, you know, I'm like, it's a race. So I'm filtering through traffic with this ridiculous solar panel and bike. So perhaps not the safest of riding conditions anyway, like a normal bike tourer. But really, yeah, the drivers in Morocco are not bad at all. I mean, I think you would be more risk from a truck in Portugal than you would be in Morocco, from my experience.
Okay, good. All right, Jack, let's think back then to the race, and I'm wondering what your favorite stories that you might be thinking about are. What were some really happy memories or interesting stories or funny stories that you may have for us?
Yeah, well, a lot. It feels like a lot happened in what's technically not really that long of a time. One of the main checkpoints of the trip was there's a mountain pass in the Atlas Mountains called Tizian Test. Kind of comes after Marrakesh, and I think everybody knew. Well, I certainly knew that was the start of the hard sun trip, because up to that point you've been in France, Spain, and Portugal, which is the easiest bike touring ever, especially in Spain. All of the west coast of Morocco is very developed. It's basically European standard of everything. You know, the supermarkets and the roads in Morocco are very high quality. But after that pass, that we kind of knew that was where it's going to really begin. And a few years ago, there was an earthquake close to Marrakesh, close to that mountain pass, that kind of destroyed the road completely. So it's unpaved up and over the Atlas Mountains. And I've been thinking about that pass for so long, like so many days. You've got nothing else to think about. And actually being on it and being like, oh God, here we are. I'm going over the Atlas right now. I got up to the, maybe 10 kilometers from the top. And I have this in one of my YouTube videos. I can't believe I caught it on video. We're going through these really big switchbacks and round the edge of the mountains. And I look down across the valley and I see second place coming behind me. I see this white velomobile maybe a kilometer away across the valley. I couldn't believe it. I just looked back and I was like, wait a minute, that's him. I'm sure there's nobody else in a velomobile out here in the mountains in Morocco. And at that point, I was like, well, I'm going to have to sprint to the top of this mountain to get this next checkpoint first. I just couldn't believe it. Really, the whole race, we first and second position. Mostly Jean-Marc was in first in this velomobile, but we swapped first place maybe 5-6 times. Always he would always avoid elevation and go around the mountains, and I would just take the shortest kilometers and go over everything, which worked out in the end. He did by the end of the sun trip, he did 500 kilometers more than I did, and I did 7,000 meters more climbing than he did.
So this was a strategic decision that you had thought about, obviously, in the past. And I know, because I know a lot of folks were following the end of this race and the Jean-Marc and you going back and forth. And I know from a couple of your videos, this is really what you consider to have been the best decision strategically to have won this for you. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I mean, the gap between us at the finish line was what, 4-6 hours? If I'd been slightly heavier or slightly less fit or slightly anything, I would have lost the race. Or one more thing had broken. 6 hours in 3 weeks is nothing. Yeah, it was very very tight. But that was the goal. Yeah, be light and fast. I think one other thing that I think most people saw online when there were people who were following live, there was a live map all the time. You could see us with the GPS. Was the rush for the ferry to leave Morocco and go back to Europe. There's only one ferry, and it runs, I think, 3 services a day, or maybe 2 services a day. And in a race where you're trying to maximize moving time, if you get stuck waiting for a ferry, that's an absolute disaster. That's an example of something that might lose you 6 hours. So from the final checkpoint in Morocco, Jean-Marc was quite far ahead of me. He was maybe 100, 200 kilometers. No, maybe he was about 100 kilometers ahead of me, something like this. And I could see on the map that he was going to make it to the last ferry of the day, which was at like 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. And I knew at that point that if I didn't get on that ferry, the whole race was over for me. That was the finish line as far as I was concerned at that point. And after 2.5 weeks or something or 2 weeks of racing, I was already exhausted. And I spent 4 hours or something, almost at a full sprint, just sprinting towards Tangier to get to this ferry. And people were watching online like, oh, is he going to make it? Is he not? Because you could count the distance. I always have on my phone, like I have an app where you type in the distance and the time you have left, and it spits out the speed. Just so I don't have to do the maths on the calculator, it spits out the speed you have to do. So I did the calculation. I said, okay, I'm doing this speed, whatever happens. As long as I don't drop under this speed, I'll make it to the ferry. And I absolutely flew through Tangier. Honestly, I must be the Sun Trip rider that's been airborne the most. I was like, every speed bump, everything, I was absolutely flying. And thankfully, I've got full suspension because at that point, I was like, if the bike breaks, I lose the race. If I don't get this ferry, I lose the race. So there's only one there's only one I get a shot at. And yeah, no problems, thankfully. And I made it with like minutes to spare. I got to the ticket desk and they closed the like check-in gate just as I came through it. I was the last person through. Oh,
so without a doubt, the most critical aspect of the whole race for you then. Yeah,
really, I would have lost the race right there. I would have had to take the morning ferry and I would have lost hours.
And did you see, so you obviously saw Jean-Marc when you got on the ferry. You're like, was he crestfallen? Did you see him? Did he did he go, oh no?
Yeah, I don't think he was very happy. He's a lot more competitive than I am. It sounds as though I'm competitive, but I think I explained in one of my YouTube videos. Really, I have to force being competitive. It's not my natural state. It's not in my nature to be competitive. This Sun Trip was me making a conscious decision. Like, come on, Jack, we're going to be competitive. We're going to win something. So I'm just I was happy to see him, but I think he wasn't maybe happy to see me.
Jack, maybe this is a good point to talk about not just the competitiveness of the racers, but maybe the camaraderie and the helpfulness between you. Were there any parts of the trip where you saw or were involved with riders helping each other?
I mean, I didn't see any of the other riders other than Jean-Marc, but we have this big group chat all together. And the camaraderie between Sun Trippers is so cool. In 2018, obviously, I saw people, and it was always the best when you could ride with other people. And I helped Mikhail Yorget, I think he's called. His trailer hitch was broken, and we were in Ukraine together. and I helped him fix that. And then he went on to come third place, I think, or second place. So it was like just cool to be involved. But on this edition, not so much. I was kind of watching from the sidelines in the group chat of like people like, my motor's, this is wrong with my motor, and this is wrong with this. My frame has snapped here. Where's the welder of this? And yeah, it was. It's always nice to see. I mean, the Sun Trip spirit is amazing. There really is almost two Sun Trips at the time. You know, you've got the people at the front who are crazy people, and you've got the normal people, which is everyone else, the adventurers. So yeah, it was good to watch. It was cool.
The thing that I was thinking of, maybe I got this wrong. I thought from one of the videos of yours that I watched that Jean-Marc maybe gave you a strap or a string or something that helped, that you needed for, was it the tilting mechanism?
Yeah.
Did I get that wrong?
Yeah. No. He gave me some Dyneema. He has this because I think he's into sailing. Like a lot of these guys are into sailing for some reason. It seems to be like an overlap with sailing and the Sun Trip. Yeah, he gave me like a length of Dyneema to like fix my tilting system, which is so cool. No, it's like Sun Trip spirit all along, which is so nice.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I was thinking when I saw that. So perfect. Great. All right. Let's move to the end of the trip, which turned out to be, as we all know now, a triumph for Jack Butler. But I'd like to hear it from you. So I don't know where you want to start, last couple of days or last day, whatever you think is a good place to start. Tell us about the end of the race for you.
Yeah, well, that was also similar to the story of the ferry. That was also fairly iconic. Jean-Marc was ahead of me all the way across Spain on the way back. He hit the last checkpoint first, and yeah, he was basically ahead the entire way. Not that far ahead, a couple, maybe 100k or 200 kilometers, but it's quite a lot in the high-level racing terms. So coming before the Pyrenees, I knew the Pyrenees would be critical again, like at the beginning. I'd been first over the Pyrenees the first time, and now we had to go back up over the Pyrenees. So I knew that was going to be critical. And this time we were going on the east side where Barcelona is. So I knew that his route choice was going to be vital. And based on what he'd done up until that point, I was sure that he would try and go to the coast and go around the Pyrenees as much as possible. So with two friends on a WhatsApp group, where we picked this route, which was basically, I absolutely went in a complete straight line, straight over the Pyrenees, the most direct route possible to save as many kilometers and balancing not too many meters of climbing. And yeah, Jean-Marc in the velomobile, we were watching, like, as it was happening, I'm riding and I've got my phone on the handlebars and we're like watching, like, where's he going to go? Where's he going to turn? And he turned east towards Barcelona, and then we knew, okay, he's going for Barcelona. Now I have to attack over the Pyrenees. I have to really go. And yeah, he went through the suburbs of Barcelona on one of the biggest public holidays of the year, which is everything's closed. All the supermarkets are closed. All the hotels are closed. It was just really bad routing, which was like absolute saving grace. And that evening, he ended up sleeping in his tent, like behind a supermarket on the outskirts of Barcelona, because there was just nothing open. He couldn't find accommodation. He couldn't find anything, which I knew, again, was, as awful it is for Jean-Marc, we're all used to camping by this point. I knew it was an advantage for me because hopefully I could get a decent accommodation. I could be more rested. I needed the muscles to get over the Pyrenees. But yeah, and at that point, it was like, okay, we're kind of neck and neck. And we realized after I came over the top of the Pyrenees, I came out in front and he came out behind. And it was just a desperate scramble to stay ahead. After the Pyrenees, all the way to Lyon, it's fairly flat and it favors him quite well. If it was a headwind, I probably would have lost. But because it was like not that much wind, maybe slight tailwind, that's a big advantage to me. The big advantage of the velomobile is it cuts through the air or cuts through the wind. So if there's a tailwind, he basically loses his advantage to me. At that point, he's riding a trike and I'm riding a bike. So anytime there's a tailwind, I get a huge advantage. So thankfully, everything just kind of went well. I didn't have any punctures, didn't have any issues. And I just like desperately clung on to first place until the end. And yeah, that's it.
And how far ahead of him were you when you pulled in?
I think the gap was 6 hours. Or no, it was 4 hours even. Yeah. So yeah, nothing. We did 7,500 kilometers, and there's a 4 hour gap. Is basically nothing.
And describe that scene for me as you pulled it to the finish line. What was that like there?
Absolutely surreal. I couldn't believe it. It's like this iconic fountain in Chambéry. The finish is in Chambéry. It's just close to Lyon on the mountainside. And the organizer, the CEO of the Sun Trip, is there, and like all the organizer people, and there's the banners and the rope. And it felt completely like a dream, honestly, because I've dreamt forever since watching the Sun Trip in 2015 and 2013 of one day winning a Sun Trip, and then that was it. It was happening. The suffering, first the suffering was over, and now the moment was here. You know, the thing that I've kind of suffered for this whole time.
So let's kind of finish up then with some of the way that you document this trip and the previous trips. You have a wonderful YouTube channel. We've just briefly mentioned it. And before we talk about your channel, which I want the folks to know about, which I find wonderful, personally, I'm just kind of interested in the equipment that you use, the audio and video equipment that you use used on this trip, or maybe what you're thinking about using in the future, maybe what you've used in the past. How do you go about doing that? So tell me about the videoing for your YouTube channel and the audio, and are you happy with what you use?
Well, like I think I'm not sure whether I've completely mentioned, but a big focus on this Sun Trip for me was to absolutely maximize my moving time. And like any moment you spend stopped is a big disadvantage. I think talking about the stats again, I think I cycled for 20, maybe 15 or 20 hours longer than Jean-Marc in second cycled. So his average speed was 28, mine was 25, but I just cycled a lot longer. And that was thanks to kind of my philosophy with the video making was to keep everything on the bike. So I used my phone for all the filming. At the beginning, I had a lapel mic, but unfortunately it didn't work very well, so I quickly got rid of that. I used all the phone for the filming, and I actually I did a YouTube video every day. I don't know how I managed it. I really don't know how I pulled it off. And I edited the video while on the bike most of the days, like 70-80% of the time. I had like a video editing software on my phone, and in the last 1 hour of the day, I would edit the video of the day so that hopefully I could finish the day and just eat and sleep as fast as possible. Just because it's not
Jack, just hold on a second. Let me make sure I understand what because this is shocking to me. You actually did the editing while you were writing the last hour of the day?
Yep. For me, that hour is so valuable. So to be able to do it while riding is like great. I mean, on the AZUB 6, your handlebars like up here. You have your phone on the mount. Yeah, if you go and watch the videos, they're not anything technical. It's like transitions and that's it. I just have to cut. I have to cut correctly and transition correctly and do the music, and that they're not too special, but saving that time is so valuable. In 2018, I had a little Sony camera, which is much better quality, but it just adds another step of getting it to the phone and then doing that. And then I even had a laptop in 2018. I didn't have anything. I had almost nothing with me in this time.
Jack, I'm sitting here right now trying to decide which is the more amazing accomplishment. The fact that you won the Sun Trip, or the fact that you were able to create all these amazing YouTube videos while you were riding the Sun Trip physically on the bike pedaling. I had no idea that you did this. I thought your videos were really very good, but I assumed you got done. You were camping or whatever, and you were able to like take a little time during your exhaustion and just did it and then went to sleep. I had no idea. This is amazing to me. I'm astounded by that.
I mean, I'm also surprised. I started at the beginning, the first few days, saying I'm going to do a video every day at the beginning, and then when it gets too hard, I'll just stop, and that's fine. But it's kind of like that sunk cost fallacy, you know. You get 3 days in, you get 5 days in, you get 7 days in, and you're like, well, I've done it every day now. I can't break the streak. But I can tell you for a fact the I would always do the upload. I would upload when I get like in an accommodation with Wi-Fi or whatever. And most of the time I would fall asleep, like typing in the YouTube details before I could press upload. I would fall asleep before I could press upload.
Any other adventure traveler that I have interviewed, of course, has always done it after the end of the day, and many times gave up, would have to wait days to do this. And so, I had this question in my interview questions. You're like, how did you balance giving up, maybe being more competitive, going further during the day so that you could edit? But clearly, you've answered the question now. You just didn't give it. You refused to compromise, which I salute you. I don't know how you did that, Jack.
The compromise is on mental strength.
I suppose. All right. So I guess finishing up with the actual shooting of video, was there anything that you saw that you missed getting on video that you maybe wished you did get on video? Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the phone is good for convenience, but I think for sure people catch more stuff when they have like a continuous recording. I know some of the guys in the chat, the Czech guys, they had like a car camera kind of thing. So if something interesting happens, you're always going to get it. For sure, in the videos, I really wanted to show people like being chased by dogs is horrible. And it's just, I did not have the mental capacity to film being chased by dogs. I mean, I filmed myself in some of my lowest moments on the trip. Like, because I always know, like, afterwards, you kick yourself. You think, like, that's the most interesting thing that happened, but you didn't feel like filming. But for being chased by dogs in a country where rabies is still pretty widespread, I couldn't do it. I'm too scared. Probably more scared. I'm definitely more scared than I need to be. But I wish I would have got a good video of being chased. That's YouTube clickbait all over now.
Yeah, for sure. But honestly, I think you made the right choice. So your ride itself and the race were compelling enough. So yeah, I'm glad you didn't decide to do that. All right, so Jack, let's finish up with talking about your amazing YouTube channel. So you documented this race on it, some amazing videos there, but it's not where you started. And I'm interested in the genesis of your thoughts about YouTube. Why did you start a YouTube channel? When did you start it? And what did you start with?
Yeah, well, my channel has existed for a long time. I think I started when I was like 17 or 18 or something like this. Back in the day, I wanted to build the reason my channel kind of got a foothold is because I had this idea, like, I want to build a tiny house inside a shipping container. But I just by coincidence come to that conclusion kind of the year before the shipping container tiny house thing was a thing. Just by coincidence, not by being smart or anything. So my videos were there of me trying to do this thing when people started looking for, shipping container houses, or tiny houses. So, I don't have many subscribers, but that's kind of what gave me, once you have 1,000 subscribers, I think, and your videos are like normal and you're a normal human, people tend to follow you. The people that followed me and were leaving comments in this sun trip were the same people 10 years ago that were commenting on my first videos. So it's like so nice. Like, they're like, it's kind of the nice way that you want the internet to be, of like this community of people that are real people that exist. So yeah, it's just kind of evolved and adapted. I eventually sold the shipping container because I realized, like, I really want to travel. And when you're 17, the idea in your head is like, this is the place that I live and this is where I'll always be. But so I sold that, and eventually I built a van for living in, which is a similar transferable skills. It's a shipping container on wheels almost. And yeah, I made some videos on my bike tours and bits and pieces. Yeah, it's just kind of a slice of life.
The van was notably fueled by renewable fuel. Wasn't that part of what you were doing?
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to keep a very low carbon footprint, hence which is what pushed me for the original sun trip. I don't fly. I stopped flying many years ago now. Originally, then at the time I went vegan to try and compensate the carbon emissions from the flying, but then I eventually gave up flying anyway. So now I'm like losing two things. The van I converted to run on used vegetable oil. So it's a waste product, and it's different from mineral oil, as in like fossil fuels. In the carbon that's in the vegetable oil is just carbon that came from the atmosphere, went into the plant, and now I'm burning it back into the atmosphere again. It's carbon that already exists in the world in the cycle, whereas if you dig it from deep underground, you're increasing the amount. And also it's a waste product. So restaurants don't want it, cafes don't want it. It costs them money to get rid of it. So I'll take free fuel. That's no problem for me. Especially in Europe, it's slightly more expensive, the fuel over here, than other places. I certainly couldn't afford it if I had to buy diesel.
All right. Well, Jack, your YouTube channel is wonderful, and I encourage all of my viewers to have a look. I think they'll find lots there to enjoy. It's called Jack Butler Videos. That's the channel name?
Yeah, the tag is, Jack Butler Videos, or the channel's just in my name, which is Jack Butler. There's another famous Jack Butler. I've just got to try and get more subscribers than him, and then we've made it on YouTube.
That's the current challenge for you.
Yeah.
I think that's good. You're always looking for a new challenge, clearly. So, all right. Well, what about the future, Jack? What's coming up for you? What are you thinking about for future adventures or plans?
Yeah, I mean, I traveled around in West Africa. I think I mentioned it earlier, in like Mauritania and Guinea-Bissau and Gambia and Senegal. And just the amount of mopeds down there, I've always kind of had this idea that I want to build like a super hybrid. So it's a bicycle, electric, vegetable oil, solar. It's just like a multi-fuel contraption. Kind of my end goal, my end engineering goal, life project is to take my van or take a vehicle and convert it to electric completely myself, from an engine to electric. And I feel like doing a moped or kind of a bicycle moped thing is kind of a good stepping stone in that direction. So maybe that's in the nearish future.
Well, good. I think we'll have to. I'm sure we're going to see. If you start that project, we're going to see how that works out for you on the YouTube channel. Well, Jack, before we close out here, anything else you wanted to talk about that we might have missed?
I can't think of anything, but thanks for having me. I'm a big fan of the show. It's going to be weird seeing me on it, but yeah, just thank you very much.
I don't think it'll be weird seeing you at all. Oh, maybe for you, because I see myself as well. Jack, it's quite an honor for me to have you on. I can tell you that when you were racing, my wife and I were in Sweden. We had been to Germany at Spetzi, and we're visiting a friend in Sweden and doing a little touring along the Baltic. Nothing as adventuresome as what you do. But my friend Alva Henriksson, who is the Swede that was hosting us and taking us along, was a huge fan. This is really how I really got to know you. And every day we would wake up and we'd go wherever we're going, and he goes, "Did you see what Jack did? I cannot believe what this guy did." And so I started following then, and kind of got caught up like so many other people did. So, Jack, a total pleasure for me to have met you online. Hopefully we'll get to meet each other in person someday. I wish you all the best. Thanks for coming on the Laid Back Bike Report.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
It was a fun interview with Jack. We were hoping he could be with us live today. As Jack mentioned earlier in the interview, he leads tours of the Grand Tours, and actually right now he is leading a group of folks at the Tour de France. So we weren't sure whether he was going to have time to join us today. It looks like he won't be able to. So for those of you who have asked some really good questions that only Jack can really answer in the live chat, I will take a look at those afterwards. We'll make sure that Jack sees them. And I think what we'll end up doing is putting them in the comment section of this video when it posts live on YouTube. So thanks for those great questions. We'll hopefully get Jack to answer those later. And thanks to Jack Butler for the amazing interview. All right, guys, let's move on to the next segment. This is something of interest to many of us here in the U.S. for sure. CycleCon is an event that we have attended for a number of years. Lots of great recumbent manufacturers are there showing off their wares. This year, there have been a number of improvements, things that the guys from WizWheelz have learned from previous CycleCons, and I think those that attend this year will quickly notice some real improvements. So I had a chance to sit down with Mark Crews, the CEO of WizWheelz, earlier in the week, and we talked all about what's coming up this year in CycleCon. So Larry, let's have a look.
I'm happy to be here with my pal Mark Crews from WizWheelz. Mark, how you doing today?
Good, Gary. Thanks for having me.
Mark, let's start from the top. Let's assume that some people have no idea what this CycleCon thing is at all. Tell us what CycleCon is and why do you put this event on?
Yeah. So you're well aware of the history with Charles Coyne. It's been around for a lot of years. He wanted to back out and retire. And we said, I mean, not that we know any better, but we said, we're glutton for punishment. Let's take this on and keep it going. It's important to the recumbent industry. So we want to create an experience for current riders, new riders, and the recumbent curious that they can kind of come together. We want more people to know about what options are available to them. You know, not every bike shop out there carries recumbents. People are curious about it. They've never been on one. And we want to expose more people to it. And then by bringing everybody together, it kind of builds that community of riders. And also important from our side and the other brands, I feel like, is building an industry around it. Before we took on CycleCon, you know, everybody's kind of left to their own devices and the brands would kind of, ooh, what are they doing? And, oh, what are they doing? And it was secretive. And since we've taken it on, we've actually built, you know, good relationships, better relationships with the other brands to where we can openly talk about where things are at and what we need to do better as a group. So it's been really encouraging. And I think the feedback we get from other brands is awesome.
Yeah, I agree. And from talking to the many manufacturers and retailers that I speak to all year long, they would agree with that too. It's wonderful what you've done there. All right, so this year, CycleCon returns to Xenia, Ohio. Tell us exactly where and when this is happening. Yeah,
so September 20th through 22nd in Xenia, Ohio will be CycleCon 2024. The 20th is a dealer / industry day only. And then the 21st and 22nd is open to anybody, consumers, anybody that wants to come and experience it and check it out. The beauty of Xenia and the reason we're back there again, one, the Greene County Fairgrounds has just been phenomenal to work with, getting us what we need and working through the improvements that we want to see this year. But Xenia is an area a lot of people just don't realize, but there are 4 major trail systems that come together right in town. It's not even a mile away from the fairgrounds. So you've got tons of riding opportunities. So again, kind of going with the theme of creating an experience for everybody, we feel that any location we go to has to have a good riding trail system. The community supports it there. And people can come and camp or stay in a hotel, whatever form of camping you like, and spend the weekend, dabble into CycleCon, experience some new trikes and bikes, and then go for a long ride. That's really what we want it to be.
All right. And Mark, last year, one of the really fun parts of CycleCon that I'm still hearing about from folks are the group rides that were put together. Are you going to do that again this year? We
are, for sure. The group rides were a big hit. I think we had 60 people pre-register, and who knows how many. Unfortunately, holding up traffic at times. But again, the community is used to that. Not, 100 people riding down the rail trail at once, but the community was very open, and we didn't get any negative feedback from it. And people loved doing it. The brands that put it on, I know like AZUB, Hansa had some great feedback for us. they were glad that they were helped sponsor one of the rides. So we're definitely doing that. Again, we don't have specific times yet for those rides, but that'll be on the 21st and 22nd. And one thing I did want to go back to real quick, just to encourage any dealers, bike shops that are listening out there, the 20th is just for you guys, and it's a chance to conduct business and talk with brands, see what might work for your shop. And then Schwalbe Tires, once again, is sponsoring the dinner for those dealers at the end of the day on Friday. So it's a great day to come for bike shops.
Okay, and you mentioned the accommodations, hotels, Airbnbs as an option, and camping. Specifically, I remember folks were camping on site right there at the fairgrounds last year. That's still available? Any changes there?
It sure is. To be clear, you do have to reserve that through the fairgrounds. I believe you can do it right on their website, but that's all on them. But it's an accommodation that they've helped us with. And yeah, great new sites there last year that they put in, electric hookups. So yeah, it was great. You could literally walk from your camper right over to CycleCon and ride all day on the demo track.
Super, super. All right. Mark, let's start talking about the actual customer coming and attending CycleCon. And there's been some changes here, notably about the cost of entry. You've made a little change there. Could you tell us about the changes you made? What's it going to cost, and why you made those changes?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Gary. So it is $5 per day for an entry into CycleCon, and we had some people saying, "Hey, let's always keep it free," and we really, really try hard to do that. But conferring with other exhibitors and looking at where they wanted it to go and where we want it to go, we do have to add that $5 charge. It's very minimal, but it helps offset the growing costs of putting this event on. And when it comes down to holding the event or not holding the event versus charging the $5, we said people want it, the exhibitors want it, let's charge the $5. And looking at the feedback, we did a customer survey last year after the show, and there wasn't a lot of negativity towards something like that. So we're going for it, but that's allowing us to do more with the show. So one thing is just having more staffing, our own team there to help people out. The biggest thing that you will notice is that we're in a different building this year at the same fairgrounds, much, much bigger. Last year we were overwhelmed, which is awesome, the number of people that showed up. But if you remember, Gary, the aisles were pretty jammed. I remember playing traffic cop through there, getting people moving, and this is going to allow us to expand that presence and give more space to the aisles and accommodate the additional exhibitors that are coming this year as well. So that's awesome. We're going to do better with the entrance to the show. We were overwhelmed. We weren't prepared. This year we're prepared, and there's some new things that we put into place to help accommodate that. Again, reason for the additional cost. Simple things like going out and making sure we have a crew that can go out and actually sweep the demo track. This is a fairgrounds. They have livestock. They have all sorts of events going on, and we want to make sure that the demo track is nice and clear, get all the little stones off of it and stuff so people have a great experience. We have improved food options. One of the feedbacks last year was, to have something offered different rather than a greasy burger. Some people are good with that, but a lot of people aren't. So we're expanding that, having some better vegetarian options, some healthier options as well. There is a lot of behind the scenes work. My staff is running crazy, trying to get this together. And again, all these little things just add up to costs for us. One of the cool things that we're going to do this year is the first 1,500 pre-registered people will get a swag bag. Can't say what's in the swag bag fully yet, but that $5 will help go towards that as well. So lots of other things to go through. I don't know. What else did I miss there, Gary, that we've talked about?
One thing I think you might want to talk about in terms of the test track is there's going to be a separate test track that Steintrikes is involved with, I understand?
Yeah. Talking about the exhibitors, again, one of the beauties of running this is really getting to know the exhibitors and talking through, what do you guys want this to be? This is our show. not WizWheelz show, but collectively our show. And Steintrike's approached us, said, man, we have the biggest suspension trike out there, and we want to highlight it. Pavement doesn't do it. They wanted something unique. And we said, well, let's figure this out. We've talked with the fairgrounds, working with them. They're going to have their own mini demo track. Their booth is strategically placed where you'll be able to actually go into their booth and then exit out the back side of their booth to the outside to a pre-done track. And they're going to have obstacles that people can ride over to really experience what off-road triking is like, specifically on their product. So that's going to be pretty cool. I expect there will be a little bit of a line at the Steintrike booth to check that out. So that's really cool.
I'm guessing Janet will love the line anyways. It's something that's a problem I'm sure that
she likes
folks
those problems. Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. And the other thing that folks have talked about with me for years, especially the attendees, is they've always felt there was a bit of a lack of ability to buy things, to actually go to CycleCon and purchase anything from accessories to actual trikes. And it has been a bit of a conundrum as far as finding a way to make that work. Mark, I understand you guys have been working on that. What's up with that?
Yeah. So again, feedback from exhibitors and then feedback from consumers too last year, which was awesome to get. We love that feedback. Initially with the show, we didn't want it to turn into kind of a bargain sale, flea market type situation. And so we're a little bit resistant to that at first. And as we talked to exhibitors more, and then the feedback from consumers last year, again, your voice is heard, so let us know, was overwhelming that, they're not necessarily looking for the flea market aspect, but man, you see this cool, Avis lock system that's there, or, a rear rack you need from a Terra Trike or whatever. They want to be able to buy that. And the exhibitors can help offset some of their expenses by being able to sell some of that to the consumers. So we're opening that up. It's up to the exhibitor. They're not required to be able to sell anything. That's on them. But a lot of them want to bring some extra things that they can sell off to consumers. And let's face it, we've all been to different shows in the past, and be able to walk away with something that, hey, I bought this at whatever show, is memorable. And so we want to help create that experience as well. So
perfect. No, I think that's great. I think that's a great improvement. All right, let's stay with the exhibitor subject here, and talk a little bit about who is coming. Who are going to be behind the tables at the booths this year that you wanted to highlight here for us today?
Well, first off, I got to say what's awesome to hear is all the exhibitors that are signing up. I don't think we've heard from one that says we're going to bring less stuff this year. Everybody has said we're bringing more product, we're bringing more staff. So I know Mark from Catrike, just talking to him, he's going, gosh, we had people waiting. We didn't have enough product there. So he's bringing more capabilities, more trikes, more staffing. So in general, there's going to be more opportunities to ride there, which is going to be awesome. But some highlights too. Haas is back. They had a scheduling conflict last year. So they're going to be back, which I know a lot of people are excited about. They got some cool products to try out.
Yeah, and Mark, they just showed a new trike at Eurobike, I noticed. So I'm guessing they may even have that there for people to take a look. So
cross our fingers.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And then Jan from Velomobile World was super excited after coming last year. And I know you've talked with Ben as well. They are stoked to be there. What's really going to be great is they're going to actually have some demo Velomobiles there, which is awesome. I mean, these are, as you're aware and your audience is aware, they're not inexpensive Velomobiles, top of the line stuff. And you're going to be able to climb in one with the help of the staff there and go try one. See what experience a Velomobile at CycleCon. And that's going to be really, really cool to help grow that side of the market as well. We've got new exhibitors, Grin Technologies out of Canada. decided to come this year. That's great to see their motor systems and what upgrade options customers have. We have Madeline Jet Bike and Thai Aero hand cycles coming. That's all brought to their the U.S. distributors Bike On. So they're going to bring those there, which is awesome. Carbon Trike, formerly Baketta Trikes, is going to be there as well. So we're going to get to see what used to be the CT 2.0, I believe. I'm not sure if it's renamed or what's new, but they're going to be there, which is exciting. Schwalbe has always been a great sponsor of the show, but they're actually going to have a booth there this year, which is exciting. You can see all the cool tires and tubes. And what's really awesome is they've been pushing for tube recycling. And so they're going to have on-site tube recycling there. And we're still hashing out the details, but if you bring in a tube, you're going to get entered in to win something. So bring your blown out tubes. Doesn't matter the brand. Just bring them in. They want to collect that stuff so it just doesn't end up in the dump. So, and then what we're really excited about as well is Wahoo. Wahoo Trainers is going to be there. And I think training, the indoor trainers from a recumbent industry side, there's plenty of people using them, but we've got a lot of people that are kind of new to cycling, and getting onto recumbents is getting them back out there. Well, when exposing them to trainers and what that can be throughout the winter. So Wahoo's going to be there, and they're going to actually have some trikes set up on trainers, which is going to be awesome. You're going to be able to see what it's all about and how you can ride in the winter and how you can ride in the bad weather. So we're super excited, and that's not to negate anybody else that's there as an exhibitor, but these are some new ones that I think your audience is going to want to hear, and the attendees are going to want to visit.
Lots of new things to see, and a great big new venue, which, like you say, that was one of the drawbacks last year. Everybody was surprised to see so many people, and it was a bit cramped. But we've got that licked, it looks like, for this year. That's great. And so finally, the seminars. So you had a lot of good folks speaking last year that seemed pretty well attended. We recorded all of them, and those are all up on YouTube. So we'll be happy to see if we can do that again for you this year. How's that going? Do you have anything you can talk about yet, or what's going on with the seminars?
Nothing I want to throw out there as dialed in for sure. But again, we've got the customer feedback, the attendees that gave us their feedback last year. This is what I want to learn about. This is what I see. We're working on that. We want to create some staple seminars for people. We will have something on basic repairs. I know Larry has done that in the past, and kind of some ad hoc repairs on the road. But we also heard people want to know, how do I change a flat tire, right? How do I keep my derailleur from clicking? How do I adjust the brakes if they get worn? So we're kind of going to dial that back into a more basic seminar for people, more palatable. And we're going to have some of the staples still there. And there's some others I'm not ready to throw out there yet that we're working on, trying to dial in the seminars. But again, we're listening to that feedback. And I think the seminars this year are going to be better than ever.
Super. All right. Well, that's great. I think that pretty much covers it all. If folks want to stay up to date, if they want to get a ticket to attend, if they want to see who the latest exhibitors are, where can they find out this information?
Yeah, go to our website. It is cycle-con with an N.com with an M. And you can get all the info there. You'll be able to register through there. We have decided to take on any online registration fees. Sometimes, hey, it's $5, but now you've got to charge this processing fee. We're eating that. So it's $5 per day. Go sign up. You can sign up for 2 days, 1 day, whatever. If you don't do it online, that's fine. You can register right there at the show. No problem. But again, if you want to get your hands on a swag bag, you got to pre-register so we know how many to have there. And I really just think it's a great opportunity for people to come and check things out, and they get to see their heroes like you, Gary.
Me?
You're a celebrity.
Well, I hope you're counting on more heroes besides me to make the draw here, but thank you. That was very kind of you, Mark. So we're always excited to come to CycleCon. Always a great time. You guys have done such a wonderful job.
Thanks.
We'll have a booth there as always, manned by some of my crew. And yeah, Trey and I think Larry's coming again this year. We'll be out and about doing lots of interviews and seeing as many of our viewers out there as we can find as well. So we look forward to that. Well, that sounds great, Mark. Thank you so much for sharing all the information about CycleCon 2024. We will see you there and the rest of the guys from and gals from WizWheelz. So thanks for coming on the Laid Back Bike Report again, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Appreciate the time and the vote of confidence behind CycleCon. I think it's going to be a big, great show this year. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you there again.
See you in Xenia. Okay, thanks, Mark.
Yep, see ya.
All right, well, that was Mark Crews, CEO of WizWheelz, and with us now, we're happy to have Marshall Randall, the marketing director, and the other guy deeply involved with CycleCon. Marshall, are you there? Can I hear you?
Well, let's try that out. Can you?
Yes, we can. So that's great
Awesome.
because we have a couple of questions for you that have come up. First of all, anything to add to what Mark said?
Man, just this. I mean, there's still exhibitors signing up, which is so encouraging. Even, we're halfway through the year, not that many months out, and yet there's still some excitement, some brands that want to get in, especially some of those from Spezi, which has been interesting. I can't get into the specifics of it. I don't recall all their names, but a number of them have reached out to us. So that's kind of cool, kind of exciting. And then regarding the seminars, yeah, I think the seminars are going to be top notch this year. Again, can't spill any of the beans, but man, I'm excited. So there you go.
Good. All right. Yeah, me too. So it'd be great to see you guys there and see what the changes that Mark talked about put into action. So, all right. First of all, I got an email this morning from a viewer out in California. Daryl asked a couple of questions. First, would it be possible to have a bike rodeo for new and experienced riders to learn and demonstrate riding techniques on city streets and paths? So I don't know if this would be in conjunction with a seminar, but I've seen the bike rodeo types of things at other events. Have you guys thought about that at all?
No. And it was so interesting to see, as I mentioned in my text to you, the shirt you're wearing, because I used to own some bike shops down in Charleston, South Carolina. And one of the things we did host bike rodeos for the, younger kids and stuff and get them introduced to wearing helmets and that sort of thing. This is a little bit of a different topic, if you will, but I think that's a neat suggestion. Noted.
Okay. Yeah, the Charleston Bike Shop, that was the shirt I wore when I was recording Jack's interview when I was out in Colorado at the time. So I think you mentioned that to me before, that you actually worked there, which is a great bike shop.
Yeah,
so
it's crazy.
Yep. The other question that Daryl asked about is something I think we've talked about before with you, which I'd love to see. Could there be a corner devoted to do-it-yourself projects, experimental bikes and trikes and such? I would love to see this. Talking about Spezi, they do have the Inventors Lab, which is always a highlight there. People love to see what people come up with. What do you think about that? Have you talked about that with Mark and such?
No, but here's the interesting thing too, is I think Mark hit on it, I can't recall, but we have so much more space this year than we've had in the past. We actually have reserved an empty hall that's like, my gosh, we probably have an additional 5,000 to 7,000 square feet that we can explore some of these things that have been brought up. So, the Inventors Lab and things like that. I'm taking note of that. I think that's, again, within the realm of possibilities. I think the one thing that Mark and I are leery of, and that's compromising what we have, taking on too much. Our resources get kind of tapped, but these don't seem like, crazy difficult things. So within the realm.
All right. We're glad to be in the realm there. All right. So my buddy Mark Feldman has a question, and this is a good one we really didn't touch on. We told everyone it is in Xenia is the location of the venue. There is no Xenia International Airport, so for folks coming from around the country or maybe around the world, where are they going to fly into?
Boy, I feel like I should ask my friend Gary Solomon that question, given that he lives there. But of course, there is the Dayton Airport that you can fly into, and then there is Cincinnati, and there is Columbus. And I think in that order of closeness would be Dayton, Cincinnati, and then Columbus.
Very good. That's exactly what I would have said, Marshall. Dayton is the closest one. Honestly,
sure.
any of those would work. Maybe if you're flying in, check out and see what the best prices are for each of those, because that can vary widely depending on what airports you're flying into. So that would be a good thing, I think.
Yeah, and to further address that, Gary, would you say that Dayton probably has the more limited direct flights, whereas Cincinnati and Columbus are going to...
that may be the case. Honestly, don't know. Because I always fly out of Columbus because that's actually where I am. So Dayton is a pretty big airport. It usually has a lot of flights, but I don't know for sure. So you should probably... Okay. And it depends where you're coming from, obviously. So, do Google Flights or whatever you guys use to compare flights to a particular area and see what you could come up with. So, all right. Unless there's anything else, Marshall, I'm going to say goodbye just for now. And we're going to get into Larry's sports report. I'm going to bring you back with Larry after that because Marshall has his hands in a little bit of everything, including racing his Green Speed Aero. And so Larry will talk a little bit about what happened in his sports report. We'll bring Marshall back up to chat with him as well. So thanks, Marshall. We'll see you in a little bit.
All
right. So we're gonna see the sports report now. Larry recorded this report from his experience at the Waterford, Michigan race, and he'll explain all about what he saw and the results right now. Larry, let's have a look.
Thanks, Gary. I was excited to take part in the HPRA Human Powered Race America racing weekend at Waterford, Michigan on June 15th and 16th. Gary covered this event in detail last year. Check out the link in the description below if you would like to see that. For today's sports report, I would like to share my experience of the racing and racers at this year's event. Before the first race was the check-in and inspection by the official to make sure brakes and gears were working, 2 mirrors were used, and each racer had a properly approved helmet. This took longer than I expected. Let me now explain each bike racing category here. First are the streamliners. These are restricted to bikes where you cannot get your feet down to start or stop. Usually these are 2-wheeled vehicles. Next are the streetliners. These are where the racers must be able to get feet down or be able to self-start. These also include the velomobiles. Next are the stock vehicles and have any number of wheels. These can have no fairing or can have either front or rear fairing, but not both. Next was a velo with e-assist. And last are the trikes, which use the same rules as stock, but must have 3 wheels. The first race was a faired 1-hour time trial. This consisted of how many laps each racer could do in 1 hour. Dennis Grelk won in his CUDA W Streamliner, setting a new track record, completing 24 laps, averaging 32.75 miles per hour. Jonathan Walters came in second, setting a new record for streetliners in his bulk velomobile, completing 21 laps for an average of 28.67 miles per hour. The unfaired 1-hour time trial was won by Jonathan Walters, completing 19 laps, averaging 25.99 miles per hour. Saturday afternoon was the hill climb and coast down. Riders start at the bottom of the hill and race up one at a time. Then once at the top, they coast down as far as possible and mark with chalk the spot where they came to a stop. The hill climb was won by Ethan Elbaz from the University of Toronto in 18.8 seconds on a stock vehicle. Jonathan Walters came in fourth, but he set a class record for streetliners in 21 seconds. Dennis Grelk tied the record for streamliners on his way to winning the coast down. Jonathan Walters came in second and set a new record for streetliners. The 1 kilometer race, which was scheduled for 3 p.m., was canceled because previous delays pushed it into dinner time. There were discussions of possibly doing the kilo after dinner, but time ran out and it never took place. Sunday started out with the sprint, where racers start at the top of the hill, pedal down one at a time, and are timed over a 200-foot segment. Jonathan Walters was the fastest, setting a new record for streetliners with a time of 3.021 seconds or 45.139 miles per hour. The last events of the weekend were the road races, where the course was modified to take out the hill. These were divided into 2 separate races. In the Ferd, doing 25 laps max, Dennis Grelk won in his streamliner, lapping the entire field, completing the 25 laps with an average speed of 28 miles per hour. Jonathan Walters was second and set a record for streetliners, doing 24 laps, averaging 26.3 miles per hour. In the unfaired 20-lap race, Grelk won, switching back to a stock vehicle, coming in 29 minutes and 39 seconds, averaging 25.25 miles per hour. Also in the stock category, Peggy Thompson raced her G4 two-wheeled Recumbent. This bike, made by her husband Ron, set a record for the fastest woman, doing 15 laps in 30 minutes and 2 seconds for an average speed of 18.65 miles per hour. The overall winner in each category is determined by accumulating points for how each racer finishes in each race for each of their categories. So in the streamliner category, Dennis Grelk won that. Jonathan Walters won the streetliner category. Daryl Hanger won the stock category. In the Velo with E-Assist category was Jane Hunn. Peggy Thompson won the women's category. And last but not least, I won the trike category, thanks to Marshall and Joe leaving before all the races were finished. I participate in many cycling events where I'm the only rider on a recumbent. It was nice to be welcomed and included with so many recumbents in the racing events. It was especially nice to see so many young students from the University of Toronto there. Mike Mowat, Dennis Grelk, and the crew divide up the responsibilities of running the event in a way that allows them to race as well. They do a good job of splitting up the categories. This means that even though I was on the track getting lapped by faster racers on faster vehicles, I was still able to compete against myself and others in my trike category. I would like to thank Marshall Randall of WizWheelz for loaning me a TerraTrike Spider, which I use to race. I usually race my Greenspeed Arrow, but flying in from Colorado to also visit family sure beats a 2-day drive. I felt comfortable and competitive on the Spider. It turned out to be a great alternative to racing my Arrow. And special thanks to organizer Mike Mowat for his superb spreadsheets and racing stats, which he has generously shared with us today. More HPRA info can be found at the recumbents.com website. You can find links to all of these races in the description below. I had a great time at Waterford this year and hope to come back in the future. If you're interested in the next HPRA racing event, it will be July 13th and 14th at Northbrook Kenosha Velodromes. That's it for now. Back to you, Gary.
All right. Well, first of all, Marshall, I think you need to explain yourself. What did you fear? Why were you afraid to go up against Larry in that spider, which apparently did real well? What was the problem?
So, I don't know if you've ever experienced this fear, either one of you, but there's this smallish woman with curly gray hair that accompanies me to a lot of my events. Gary, you've had the pleasure of meeting that individual. Staying in line and on schedule with that particular woman, stepping out of line is my biggest fear. So when I was told I had X amount of time to give up for this, yes, I walked the line.
So Larry actually owes your wife a vote of thanks then for his victory. Right. Okay. Good. That's good enough. I think everyone out there understands what you're saying, Marshall. So, all right. Well, Marshall, can you now that you've seen Larry's report, we are interested in your thoughts. What did you think about Waterford? What do you think?
Wow.
What was it like?
So, Gary, I don't know what Larry shared with you, but there were so many more participants this year. Holy cow. That was so cool to show up. And I think there was easily twice as many people, if not more, than what were there last year. That was amazing. And so many velomobiles. Wow. So many velomobiles participating this year. The next thing, they are so stinking fast. My ego probably got the better of me. And I came into this a lot less prepared than last year. But that doesn't really matter. I jumped in the first event. I did both of the 1 hour sessions. And the first one I jumped in with all the velomobiles. Big mistake. Holy cow. I mean, I kind of thought maybe there'd be a chance I'd be able to catch a draft off one of them. But as soon as I would hear them coming and think about accelerating, they were gone.
Yeah, there's nothing behind those. There's no air there. There's nothing.
Right. There was nothing to grab. I just kept wanting somebody to throw a bungee cord out to me. Something, a rope, anything. Let me grab it. And then the streamliners. Wow. Again, I think the overall speeds, being on the track with those slippery vehicles it's amazing. It is just really amazing. Great athletes and great machines.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Larry, do you want to have any final thoughts here before we leave the report?
No, Marshall summed it up really good.
All right, you guys, obviously you'd recommend others join in on the fun if they can on any of these HPRA races?
Absolutely, because, again, there was such a wide, I just made it sound super competitive and super fast. And maybe that's a little bit of misjudged, an unjust opinion for that, because there were people that are just having fun too. I mean, what a great way to be able to get out of traffic, work hard if you want, but just to be around all the people, the camaraderie, it's awesome.
Well, I just iterate, there's so many races, there's different 1 hour races, different categories. So you're not always on the track with all the super fast velomobiles at the same time. But sometimes you are, and you just got to learn how to get out of the way when you get to one side of the track or the other. So it's obvious how they can get around you.
Yeah, it was
very
fun.
Good. Very good. Well, I'm glad you guys had a good time. As Larry said, I was there last year. We did a pretty extensive report. I'll put that link in the description below if you guys want to watch that. But a lot of fun. We encourage you all to join up. We'll also link to the HPRA site so you can see the future races coming up. Maybe one's coming to your area, so join that up. So, all right, guys. Yeah, go ahead, Marshall. Finish.
Hey, last thing, Larry. Good to see you.
Yes,
glad you had safe travels and made it back, dude.
We'll see you at CycleCon, Marshall.
Indeed. Take care, guys.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, guys. All right. Well, let's jump to the viewer submissions then. In the opening, I mentioned that it is International Recumbent Bike Day, and that is a proposal put out by a friend of mine, Vernon Shaw, who posted about a week or so ago on Facebook. Just kind of put it out there like maybe this would be a good idea. I contacted Vernon. I asked him if he could maybe flesh that out a little bit and we would add it to the viewer submission. And he sure did. Let me read some excerpts. You can also find this on Facebook. He posted, I think, yesterday these thoughts that he had. So, here comes the International Recumbent Bike Day. A couple of years into my recumbent bike journey, I learned of a time in 1933 where recumbent bikes were in the spotlight. On July 7th, 1933, a second-class professional French cyclist named Frances Jean-Marc rode a recumbent bicycle designed by Charles Mochet to beat the world hour record. This beat an established record that had stood for nearly 20 years. Suddenly, in 1933, a recumbent bike design stormed the cycling world by establishing superiority over the mainstream. Recumbent bikes were more than odd bikes. They were innovative bikes that pushed bike design and performance beyond the constraints established by the mainstream. The recumbent bike's time in the mainstream spotlight was cut short in 1934. Shortly after Jean-Marc's world hour record, the governing body of cycling, the UCI, bowed to pressure from conventional bicycle manufacturers. The UCI imposed limitations on bicycle design that effectively banned all recumbent bikes. I believe that this is when the recumbent bicycle was relegated to the niche of odd bike-like contraption. So here is Vernon today and riding around. He's an inveterate recumbent bike rider, and he wanted us to finish up with this. With this in mind, I suggest that July 7th be designated as International Recumbent Bike Day. What better way to endorse and popularize recumbent bikes than to remind the public of their superiority? Manufacturers could sponsor shows, events, and bike rides to promote this. So let's celebrate and promote the bikes that we all love so much by pushing for an International Recumbent Bike Day on July 7th. Well, that's today, guys. So happy Recumbent Bike Day to all of you out there. This has been picked up all over the place now on Facebook, gaining some momentum. So we would love to see this idea promoted and pushed. So let's get on with it. And guys, if you have pictures of your accomplishments, other ideas you'd like to share here on the Laid Back Bike Report, send in your submissions to us at laidbackbikereport@gmail.com. We'll add them to our viewer submissions section. All right, now let me thank the amazing sponsors that make this show possible, starting out with TerraCycle. Are you tired of feeling like your bent was made for someone else? TerraCycle's handlebars and stems allow you to customize your ride so you can feel like the superstar you are, even if you ride like a turtle. And Trailside Trikes. If you find yourself in Florida near the Withlacoochee Trail, check out Andrew's shop and amazing crew. And TerraTrike Green Speed, the best in leisure, performance, adventure touring, electric, and portability. Wherever your adventure leads, TerraTrike will take you there. And Green Speed, where Ian Sims designs bring performance through science and engineering. And Laidback Cycles, the top USA dealer for TerraTrike and the premier source for Catrike, Ice, and Green Speed. We give you the freedom to ride. And Bicycle Man, where you can find new and used recumbent trikes and bikes. We're located at Alfred Station, New York, and have over 100 bents in stock and ready to try. So why wait? Come Come ride, then decide. And AZUB, in addition to titanium suspension, another technological gem brought to you by AZUB is an optional folding mechanism. It's not only easy to operate, but works great and looks fantastic. And Recumbent PDX, Catrike's West Coast Megastore. Schedule your test ride on trikes with pedal assist electric from both Bosch and Bafang, roll-off and Schlumpf component groups, and adaptive builds. Experience the joy of Catrike. And Connecticut Yankee Peddler. We feature multiple brands of trikes, including electric assist models. Test rides and Southern Iowa hospitality are always available at our megastore in Chariton. All right, guys, next Laid Back Bike Report, August 18th. We are working on a show about off-road bent riding. So we've heard a little bit about that even today with that Steintrike off-road test track at CycleCon. Well, we're going to do a lot more about off-roading with recumbents with a couple of guys who know a lot about it. More coming up as time goes on, but we look forward to seeing you guys August 18th next month. Now, if you want to support the Laid Back Bike Report, you can like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, or click that little white eye over there. Head to the Laid Back Bike Report website where you can find out about our past shows, future shows. You can buy a hat. We do have a podcast, an audio podcast that you'll find there every month for those who like to listen instead of watch. And of course, you can become a Patreon member like these guys. We sure appreciate their help. It makes great financial sense for for them to support us. Thank you so much for doing that for as little as $1 a month. Now let's get everybody back on stage. Let's see who's left here. There we go. There's Peter. Marshall's still with us. Trey. And Larry. So guys, thank you so much for helping us out today on the show. It was a good one. We appreciate you guys helping us out. So thanks to all of the crew members, and thanks of course to all of you viewers. This would be nothing without you guys watching and supporting us. We really appreciate it. So until our next webcast, from all of us here at the Laid Back Bike Report, so long, Bent Riders.